I told my mother-in-law the truth, and it changed our family dynamic overnight. On Christmas Eve, my 6-year-old said, "Grandma told Dad you married the wrong woman." She was wearing her little red pajamas, hair still damp from the bath, holding a candy cane like it was evidence. She said it fast, like she didn't want to be the person delivering it. I didn't shout. I didn't demand details. I didn't even look toward the hallway where my husband was wrapping gifts. I made one small change. I opened a note on my phone called Facts Only and typed her sentence word for word. Because if my child was hearing lines like that, it wasn't just in-law drama. It was becoming her environment. My name is Brooke. I'm 33. We live in a Dallas suburb where every other driveway has a pickup truck and everybody's backyard has the same patio string lights. My husband Tyler is 35. And my mother-in-law Sharon is 61, church smile sweet, neighborhood famous, and completely convinced that her son can do no wrong. Our daughter, Ellie, is 6, observant in a way that feels like she has little antennae. And if you've ever lived with someone who has antennae, you know the hard truth. Kids pick up what you think you're hiding. Here's what it looked like on the outside. Tyler and I both worked. We paid our bills. We showed up to school events. We had date nights sometimes, in that let's try to be normal way. And Sharon, my MIL, was involved. She called Tyler daily, sometimes twice. She dropped off food without asking, which sounds nice, until you realize it's also a way to walk into your house like she owns it. She also had a hobby. Correcting me. Little comments always wrapped in a laugh. "You're so strict, Brooke. You don't have to schedule everything, honey. Tyler needs to breathe. Men need room." And for years, I did the thing you do when you're trying to keep peace. I smiled. I stayed polite. I told myself, it's not worth it. But then Ellie repeated that line on Christmas Eve, and something inside me went cold. Because that wasn't Sharon teasing. That was Sharon teaching. I tucked Ellie into bed and kissed her forehead. Then I walked into the kitchen where Tyler was taping wrapping paper. He looked up, cheerful, like we were in a movie. "Almost done," he said. I kept my voice low. "Did your mom say something about me being the wrong woman?" I asked. Tyler's tape paused mid-air. He blinked once, then smiled like he was trying to smooth a wrinkle. "My mom says weird stuff," he said. "You know how she is." That was his favorite move. Minimize. Redirect. Hope I'd get tired. I said. Ellie repeated it word for word. Tyler sighed like I was interrupting his piece. "Brooke," he said. She probably misheard. "It's Christmas. Please don't start this. Please don't start this." Like I was the source. Not the comment. I stared at him for a second. Then I nodded. "Okay," I said. And I meant it. I wasn't going to start anything on Christmas Eve. I was going to start documenting. Because I'd learned something the hard way. If you argue with people who live in narratives, they'll make your emotions the story. But if you speak in facts, they run out of room to perform. The next morning, while Tyler made coffee, Sharon walked in through the garage door like she always did. No knock. Just the sound of keys and entitlement. "Merry Christmas," she sang. Ellie ran to her excited. Sharon hugged her, then glanced at me with that sweet smile. "Brooke," she said, "you look tired. You working Tyler too hard again?" Tyler chuckled. I didn't. I watched Tyler chuckle. Because here's the part I didn't want to admit yet. Tyler liked the dynamic. He liked being the good guy in the middle. He liked having two women care about him. And he liked that anytime I pushed back, I looked difficult. We did presents. We did breakfast. We did photos. Then Sharon leaned toward Tyler near the counter. She didn't whisper as quietly as she thought she did. I heard it while I was rinsing dishes. Sharon said, "Just remember, if she ever makes this hard, you can always come home." Tyler didn't correct her. He just said, "I know, Mom." My hands froze under the water. Because that wasn't comfort. That was a plan. And suddenly I remembered the last few months with new eyes. The weird bank alerts. The I forgot moments. The constant pressure to act like I was lucky to be here. 2 weeks earlier, our bank had sent an overdraft warning. Email subject. Balance alert. Action recommended. Tyler said it was a glitch. A timing thing. But he didn't like me looking too closely. And then, right after Christmas, another alert hit. Bank alert, 9:12 p.m. Cash withdrawal, $400. I was standing in the hallway folding laundry when my phone lit up. I stared at the alert, then walked into the living room where Tyler was scrolling on the couch. "Hey," I said calmly, "did you take out $400 cash?" Tyler's eyes didn't leave his screen. "Yeah," he said, "for some stuff." "What stuff?" I asked. He sighed, finally looking up like I was exhausting. "Brooke," he said, "do we really have to do this? It's groceries, gas, just life. Cash for groceries, when we had cards." A vague answer that was supposed to make me feel needy for asking. I nodded. "Okay," I said. Then I opened Facts Only and typed. Deck 27. Cash withdrawal $400. Vague explanation. And I had no idea yet, but that one line was going to connect to a lot more. Because 3 days later, Sharon texted me directly, and it wasn't about Christmas. Text, 6:38 p.m., Sharon. Tyler says you're stressed about money. Don't take it out on him. He works so hard. I read it twice. Tyler says, meaning Tyler was talking to his mom about our finances. But he wasn't telling her the truth. He was telling her a version where I was the problem. And that's when I realized I wasn't just dealing with a difficult MIL. I was dealing with a husband who used his mom like a shield. And I finally felt ready to lift it. I didn't answer Sharon's text right away. Not because I didn't have words. Because I had too many. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and stared at my own face like I was checking whether I looked as stressed as Tyler had described. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I checked our shared account history line by line. Not dramatic. Not obsessive. Just clear. And the deeper I went, the less life it looked like. Small charges at odd hours. ATM fees that didn't match our normal routines. A recurring payment that showed up twice a month. Merchant. Lone Star Lending. I didn't even know what it was. That name made my stomach drop because it sounded like one of those places you go when you're trying to cover a gap quietly. I took a screenshot, then another. Then I added them to a folder in my email called Simply Receipts. Because if I confronted Tyler with feelings, he'd call me emotional. But if I confronted him with screenshots, he'd have to talk about reality. That night, after Ellie went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table and asked one question. Tyler, what is Lone Star Lending? I said. His face changed so fast it was like a mask slip. Then he laughed. Too loud. Oh my God, he said. It's nothing. It was an old thing. I'm handling it. Handling it. The phrase people use when they don't want you to look. I kept my voice even. Why is it recurring? I asked. Tyler leaned back and rubbed his forehead. You always do this, he said. You turn everything into an interrogation. There's that word again. Interrogation. As if marriage isn't supposed to include transparency. I didn't raise my voice. I'm asking because our account is getting hit with cash withdrawals, I said. And because your mom just texted me about our money. Tyler's eyes flashed. Why are you talking to my mom about money? He snapped. I stared at him. I'm not, I said. You are. He went quiet. And in that quiet, I could feel it. He wasn't mad that Sharon knew. He was mad that I knew Sharon knew. Then he said, softer, she worries. I asked, what did you tell her? Tyler exhaled like he was choosing a story. I told her you've been stressed, he said. Because you have been. That was the twist. He made my normal concerns the headline so his actions could stay in the footnotes. I nodded. Okay, I said. Then I'm going to reply to her. Tyler sat forward fast. No, he said, don't do that. She'll blow it up. I held his gaze. Then stop feeding her half stories, I said. Tyler's jaw tightened. And that's when my phone buzzed, like the universe wanted to pile on. School app notification. Aftercare pickup, 6:07 p.m., Ellie not picked up. I blinked. Tyler was supposed to pick Ellie up. He had texted at 4:30 saying, on my way. I looked at the notification, then at Tyler. He didn't notice yet. I asked, did you pick up Ellie? Tyler frowned, confused. I thought you did, he said. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my keys and drove to Aftercare so fast my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Ellie was sitting on a little plastic chair near the front desk, swinging her legs trying to look brave. The staff member handed me a paper. Aftercare incident note, child waiting past closing warning. Please confirm pickup plan. I signed it, apologized, held Ellie's hand too tight all the way to the car. In the back seat, Ellie whispered, I thought you forgot me. My throat tightened. I didn't, I said softly. Never. But when we got home, Sharon was already texting. Text, 6:52 p.m., Sharon. Tyler says you didn't pick Ellie up. Brooke, this is what I mean. You're stretched too thin. I stared at the screen like it was glowing. Tyler had told his mother I forgot our child. Within minutes. Which meant he'd been on the phone with her while I was racing to fix his mistake. I walked into the living room and held up my phone. Did you tell your mom I forgot Ellie? I asked. Tyler didn't look guilty. He looked annoyed. I was venting, he said. She asked what happened. I said, you didn't vent, you blamed me. Tyler stood up. You're making this bigger than it is, he said. And I remember thinking, if you can call this small, you're not safe to build a life with. That night, I added 3 lines to fax only. Recurring lender payment. Aftercare incident note. Sharon text blaming Brooke based on Tyler's story. If you were me, would you confront Sharon right then? Because I wanted to. But I didn't. I did the smarter thing. I waited until I had the full picture. And I got it a week later by accident in the worst possible way. Because Ellie, again, became the messenger. The week after the Aftercare incident, Sharon invited us to Sunday dinner. Not a request. An expectation. Tyler said we should go to Keep Things Smooth. That phrase, keep things smooth, had started to sound like keep Brooke quiet. So I agreed. But I brought something with me. Not an attitude. Not a speech. A plan. I put facts only in a clean document with dates, screenshots, and short labels. No commentary. Just a timeline. Because I'd noticed something about Tyler and Sharon. They loved to debate feelings. They hated to face facts. Sunday dinner looked normal from the outside. Roast chicken, sweet tea, Sharon calling Ellie, my baby. Like I was the babysitter. Tyler relaxed the second we walked in, shoulders down, voice lighter, like this house gave him a role he didn't have to earn. Halfway through dinner, Sharon smiled at me and said, Brooke, honey, I've been meaning to ask, are you doing okay? The tone was sweet. The message wasn't. Are you unstable? Are you the problem? Tyler answered before I could. She's just stressed, he said, patting my hand like I was fragile. You know, she worries. I pulled my hand back gently. Sharon nodded sympathetically, then said, Tyler told me you've been monitoring him. Monitoring? Like I was a security guard in my own home. Tyler didn't correct her. He watched me, waiting to see if I'd react the way he described to her. This is the part where I did something different. I didn't take the bait. I smiled politely and said, I'm focused on what keeps our home stable. Sharon's smile tightened. Then Ellie, from the kids' table, said something in a bright voice like she was proud to contribute. Grandma said Daddy has to hide his money from Mommy. The room went quiet. Tyler froze. Sharon blinked hard. And I felt a cold, clean kind of clarity move through me. Because there it was, the lesson Ellie had been taught. Not just that I'm the wrong woman, but that secrecy from me is normal. I stood up and said calmly, Ellie, sweetie, go wash your hands for dessert. She hopped up and ran off. The second she was out of the room, Sharon started speaking fast. Oh, she laughed. Kids say the funniest things. She must have misunderstood. Tyler said, yeah, she's just repeating stuff. I looked at Tyler and said, she is repeating stuff. That's the problem. Tyler's eyes flashed, warning. Sharon's smile fell slightly. Brooke, she said, I think you're very sensitive. Sensitive. The word people use when they want you to doubt your instincts. I sat back down and said, I'm going to say one thing and then we can move on. Tyler shifted, tense. Sharon tilted her head like she was indulging me. I said, Ellie should not be hearing adult money conversations, and she definitely shouldn't be hearing that a parent has to hide money from the other parent. Sharon opened her mouth. Tyler cut in fast. Brooke, don't, he said through his teeth. Don't. Not because it was wrong. Because it was public. I nodded once, calm. Okay, I said, then we'll handle it privately. We finished dinner. We drove home in silence. And the second we got inside, Tyler turned on me like he'd been holding his breath. What was that? He snapped. You embarrassed my mom. I stared at him. You and your mom embarrassed our marriage, I said quietly. And you embarrassed me in front of Ellie. Tyler scoffed. You're twisting everything, he said. My mom is helping. You're the one making it toxic. Then he said the line that finally snapped the last thread of my patience. He said, if you keep acting like this, you'll push me right back to her. Right back to her. Like he belonged to her and I was just renting. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I walked into our bedroom, opened my laptop, and pulled my credit report. Because I needed to know how deep the money issue actually went. And when I saw the balances, the maxed out card, the missed payment notices, my hands started shaking. Not because it was impossible, because it was hidden. And the next morning, Sharon texted me again, like she was collecting proof that I was the villain. Text 8:02 a.m., Sharon. Tyler said you lost it last night. Brooke, please don't punish him. He needs support. Lost it. I hadn't raised my voice once. Tyler was building a version of me. And Sharon was repeating it. So I did my next small change. I scheduled a meeting with a family counselor. Not for Tyler, for me. Because I needed someone neutral to tell me if I was crazy. And the counselor said one sentence that changed everything. She said, you're not crazy, you're being triangulated. Triangulated. Pulled into a 3-person marriage. And I knew exactly what I had to do next. I had to remove the third person, even if it made everyone angry. I didn't ambush Sharon at the next holiday. I didn't explode in a group chat. I didn't do a dramatic we need to talk at her front door. I invited her to meet me for coffee on a weekday morning, when Ellie was at school and Tyler was at work. Sharon arrived wearing a neat cardigan and a sweet smile like she was coming to correct me. She hugged me like we were close. Then she sat down and said, so, Tyler tells me you've been very overwhelmed. There it was again. Tyler's version, delivered through her mouth. I took a breath and said, Sharon, I'm going to tell you the truth about something, and I'm going to keep it factual. Sharon's smile tightened. Honey, she said, I always want the truth. I nodded. Then I slid a manila folder across the table. Not in a threatening way. Just calmly. Sharon glanced at it like it was rude. What is this? She asked. I said, it's what Tyler hasn't told you. She laughed once, small and dismissive. Brooke, she said, Tyler tells me everything. I opened the folder and pulled out the first page. Bank statement highlights the recurring lender payments, the cash withdrawals. I pointed to dates. Tyler has been taking cash out regularly, I said, and we have recurring payments to a lender I didn't know about. Sharon blinked, then waved a hand. That's probably for you, she said quickly. Tyler's always cleaning up messes. I didn't react. I pulled out the second page. Aftercare incident note. I slid it forward. Ellie was left at aftercare, I said. Tyler told you I forgot her. This is the report from the staff. Sharon's face changed. Just a flicker. But it was the first crack. She read the note, lips moving slightly. Then she looked up and said, Well, he said he thought you had her. I nodded. I understand what he said, I replied. I'm showing you what happened. Then I pulled out the third item. A screenshot of Sharon's own text. Tyler says you didn't pick Ellie up. I said, Sharon, I need you to realize, Tyler is feeding you versions of events that keep you on his side and keep me looking unstable. Sharon's cheeks flushed. I am his mother, she said sharply. I will always be on his side. I nodded, still calm. I'm not asking you to stop being his mother, I said. I'm asking you to stop being his weapon. That line landed. Sharon sat back like she'd been slapped, not physically, emotionally. She opened her mouth. I continued, because I knew if I paused, she'd fill the space with denial. I pulled out one last screenshot. Text from Tyler to me, sent after Sunday dinner. Text, 10:41 p.m. Tyler, do not talk to my mom about money. She'll freak. Just let me handle it. I pointed to it. He tells you I'm stressed about money, I said, but he tells me not to tell you the truth because he wants your support without your accountability. Sharon stared at the screen. Her eyes moved left to right like she was trying to find a loophole. Then she whispered, Tyler wouldn't. And right then, like a bad movie with perfect timing, Sharon's phone rang. Tyler. She answered immediately. Hi, baby, she said, voice soft. I didn't interrupt. I listened. Tyler said something I could hear faintly through the speaker. Sharon's face tightened. Then she glanced at me and said, Tyler says you're making things up and trying to turn me against him. I nodded once. And I said, ask him right now what Lone Star Lending is. Ask him why he told you I forgot Ellie. Ask him why Ellie thinks parents hide money from each other. Sharon swallowed. She put the phone closer to her mouth. Tyler, she said, what is Lone Star Lending? A pause? Sharon's eyes widened slightly. Then she said, Tyler, did you tell Brooke not to tell me? Another pause. Her fingers tightened around the phone. And then, Sharon said, quietly, Tyler, were you the one who didn't pick up Ellie? The silence after that question felt heavy enough to see. Sharon's face changed in stages. Confusion. Then anger. Then something that looked like grief. She ended the call without saying goodbye. Sharon stared at her coffee like it had betrayed her. Then she looked at me and said, why would he do that? I kept my voice gentle now, because the truth had landed. Because if you're mad at me, I said, you don't look at him. Sharon's eyes filled. Not dramatic tears. Just the shock of realizing she'd been used. And she asked the question that finally told me she was listening. She said, what do you want from me? I leaned forward slightly. I want you to stop taking messages about our marriage from Tyler, I said. If you have concerns, you ask me directly. And I want you to stop saying anything around Ellie that makes her feel like her parents are enemies. Sharon nodded slowly. Then she said, he's going to be furious. I said, I know. And I meant it. Because the next part wasn't coffee shop truth. The next part was consequences. Tyler came home that night acting normal, which is how I knew he was trying to regain control. He kissed Ellie's head, asked about homework, opened the fridge like he was a man with no secrets. Then he waited until Ellie was in bed. And he turned to me with that tight smile. My mom says you had coffee, he said. What did you tell her? I didn't flinch. I told her the truth, I said. Tyler's eyes narrowed. You're trying to ruin me, he said. I shook my head once. No, I said calmly. I'm refusing to be ruined for you. He scoffed, pacing once like he was looking for the right angle. She's my mom, he snapped. You had no right. I said, you had no right to put her in our marriage and put Ellie in your lies. Tyler's voice rose. I'm handling it, he insisted. I said I was handling it. I looked at him and said the sentence I'd been scared to say for years. Then show me, I said. Open your accounts, show me the full picture, or we separate our finances and we start talking about a parenting plan. His face went still. Because boundaries are scary to people who survive on wiggle room. Tyler swallowed. Brooke, he said quieter, don't threaten me. I replied, steady, I'm not threatening you, I'm informing you. The next day, Sharon called me. Not Tyler. Me? Her voice sounded different, older. Brooke, she said, I'm sorry for what I said, and I'm sorry I repeated things in front of Ellie. I didn't gloat. I didn't dump more anger on her. I said, thank you. Then she said something I didn't expect. I raised him to be responsible, she whispered. I don't know when he learned to lie like this. I said gently, Sharon, I think he learned it works. Because it had. For years. Tyler agreed to a meeting with a financial counselor, and we created a repayment plan. We separated certain accounts. We set new rules: no cash withdrawals without a note, all bills on autopay, shared access to statements. And we put one more boundary in writing. All communication with Sharon about our marriage goes through me and Tyler together, not one-sided, not emotional, not secret. Did Tyler love it? No. But here's the thing people don't tell you. Some marriages don't need more romance. They need more structure. A month later, Tyler slipped. Not in a dramatic way. In a familiar way. He tried to call Sharon after an argument and vent. Sharon texted me instead. Text, 9:18 p.m. Sharon. Tyler called upset. I told him I love him, and I told him to talk to you, not me. I'm staying out of it. I stared at the text for a long time. Because it felt like the first time someone had protected me in that family. Final update. It's been 8 months since that coffee. Tyler and I are still married, not because everything is perfect, but because the third chair is gone. Sharon and I aren't best friends, but we're civil, and more importantly, she doesn't undermine me in front of Ellie anymore. Ellie stopped repeating adult lines. She started being a kid again. And Tyler, for the first time, has to earn good guy status with actions, not with a story his mom repeats. Here's what I learned. If you keep someone's secrets to keep the peace, you might be keeping a lie alive. And the truth about her son wasn't meant to punish Sharon. It was meant to stop Ellie from growing up inside a war she didn't start. If you're in a marriage where you keep protecting your partner from consequences, hear me, sometimes you're not protecting the marriage, you're protecting the pattern. Truth doesn't fix people by itself, but it does something important. It stops you from carrying a story that was never yours.